everyone, and thanks for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. I'm Teniola Shoboale. The United Kingdom's Conservative Party has won a resounding victory in a general election dominated by the question of how to execute the country's exit from the European Union. Prime Minister Boris Johnson campaigned on a single simple slogan: "Get Brexit done." Britain, it seems, followed right behind him.
In this election, your voice has been heard, and about time too. Because we politicians have squandered the last 3.5 years, in squabbles about Brexit. We've even been arguing about arguing and about the tone of our arguments. I will put an end to all that nonsense, and we will get Brexit done on time by the 31st of January. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Leaving the European Union as one United Kingdom, taking back control of our laws, borders, money, our trade, immigration system, delivering on the democratic mandate of the people.
Take back control of our borders proved a potent message for those who campaigned for Britain to leave the EU. With this election result, one thing is certain: Britain is leaving the EU. Immigration has been one of the big issues in the divorce negotiations. As part of his election manifesto, Prime Minister Boris Johnson, echoing the Leave campaign pledges of the 2016 referendum, promised lower immigration with a points-based Australian-style system.
In this manifesto, we pledge 50,000 more nurses and their bursaries and 50 million more GP surgery appointments. And today, we make this guarantee to the British people that we will tackle crime with 20,000 more police officers and tougher sentencing, and that we will sort out our immigration system with a points-based Australian-style system.
There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to Brexit. How will it affect relations with other EU countries and Africa? Concerns over how Brexit could impact the global economic environment, and of course, questions over what a post-Brexit immigration system would look like. To answer some of these questions, I spoke with immigration lawyer Dayo Fadino. Immigration lawyer Dayo Fadino, thank you so much for joining us on Diplomatic Channel. You heard there the Prime Minister speaking about a point-based system for immigration. Just explain to us a bit about what this means and what the future of immigration in the UK would look like post-Brexit, especially for Africans.
What they're actually looking at is anybody who now wants to travel or come to the UK would have to actually fulfill some conditions to do with coming to the UK, particularly to do with work. You'll be highly scored if you could meet certain conditions. What this very points-based system is referring to and looking at is one, it's looking at people who are exceptionally talented, who would be able to at least bring value to the UK. People like top surgeons, top engineers, who would be able to at least come to the UK and bring value to the UK. People like highly recognized academicians, people the likes of Shoyinka and all the rest of them. If you meet those conditions, you'll be able to at least come to the UK without any job offer. The second category would be skilled people, skilled technicians, engineers, nurses, and so many other people who the UK is now quite short of when it comes to the employment market. We're looking at doctors, nurses, unskilled labor.
Yeah, but these plans to restrict immigration after Brexit are likely to cause serious damage to local economies in the UK. Already, not only are fewer EU citizens coming to the UK, but the number of EU citizens leaving the UK has reached historic highs. This year, a lot of companies also moved their businesses to other countries. We're already seeing the impact, but what impact is it likely to have in the long run? And do you think the UK is aware of the effects on the country's economy?
Oh, yes. This was one very material fact that was missed, really, when the Brexit debate was going on. In 2016, before the referendum, and even after the referendum. I think what the Brexiteers, the picture painted was we'll be okay. We'll not really have any problem with the economy. Just for a short while, we may have a problem, but in the long run, we'll survive. But that's not the case at all, because as you rightly notice, the moment Brexit happened, 2016, so many Europeans were leaving the UK because they thought they were not wanted. And many of these EU citizens were quite highly skilled, the nurses, the builders, the plumbers, some doctors, some engineers. They either left the UK back to their various countries or went to other European countries. So we already have that shortage already. And how the UK government will be able to fill up such vacancies at this point, it will be very, very difficult when they leave the EU in January 2020. And we should also bear in mind that there's also the situation to do with the shortage of all these skills. And we are yet to even come to a definitive decision on what the trade agreement would be like.
I think you drew an interesting point in relation to trade there. You know, Brexit sent shockwaves through the global markets, including those in Africa when it was announced in 2016. South Africa and Nigeria are some of Britain's top trading partners. Is there an opportunity in Brexit for Africa? Already, the US is talking trade deals with Britain. How can Africa, or let's bring it home to Nigeria, redefine their trade and diplomatic relations with a post-Brexit Britain and also the EU?
If one thing we need to now try to start working on is this. Africa is a rich bounty of resources, mineral resources, and human resources. We should now redefine how we are trading with the UK and how we could at least make use of most of our resources to have a leverage in terms of trade, in terms of exchange of skills. We need to put the African governments actually really need to put their feet in the right place and be firm, be proactive, and make sure that the leverage we have in terms of our resources, any trade deal we're going to be having with the UK would have to be reciprocal. We cannot just trade and you're not doing the same. For instance, if many of these European countries, particularly the UK, want to come and trade in Africa, I think many African countries should now start making them understand the fact that you cannot come and trade here and take resources and do what you want to do with our resources and make profit from the businesses you're going to be running in Africa, and not allow Africans to do the same in the UK. They should be very, very firm as far as this kind of situation is concerned, and not allow not allow the British government and British companies to just ride roughshod over everybody. Just because of the fact that they are now out of the EU and they are now looking for trade elsewhere in the world. We are very rich in these resources, and we should try as much as possible to make use of these resources to our advantage.
Yeah, the other issue here is aid. You know, the UK is the world's second largest bilateral foreign aid donor after the United States. It provided official development assistance to more than 100 developing countries in 2017. A recession in the UK would, of course, weaken its ability to fulfill its aid and development commitments. Will the UK's development policy remain the same after Brexit, or do you expect there to be a shift in its focus?
I feel, my gut feeling about this is because of the type of government we have now, the government of Boris Johnson, the Tory party government, and the fact that the Tory party has now been given a something majority in Parliament to be able to do anything it likes, there's a very high chance of the foreign aid and assistance to African countries been decreased. I see that happen because I remember when the Brexit debate was going on, there were so many people in the Tory party and the Brexit party, then called UKIP, who are truly advocating a situation where the foreign aid going to all the developing countries should be reduced, and the resources normally sent to many of these developing countries should be used locally in the UK. And many people are totally against this. That look, the responsibility we have towards many of these developing countries, particularly to do with aid, and the fact that many of the problems we normally have in these countries are either direct or indirect links, many of these Western countries, that we owe these people that responsibility and that duty to at least, give part of what we make in profit in terms of billions, give part of that back to African countries in form of aid.
All right, then, Mr. Dayo Fadino, immigration lawyer, thank you so much for speaking to us on Diplomatic Channel.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Let's take a quick check on other discussions in diplomatic circles.
After much frustration, confusion and fatigue, which dominated the climate change summit, COP25 finally ended in Madrid with a compromise deal. It is the longest United Nations climate talk on record. The negotiations, which were scheduled to end on Friday, continued throughout Saturday and into Sunday morning. Exhausted delegates reached an agreement on the key question of increasing the global response to curbing emission. After 2 extra days and nights of negotiations, all countries will now need to put new climate pledges on the table by the time of the next major conference in Glasgow next year.
We are ending our process. This is a party-driven process. The presidency have done all the efforts to put you together, to give the opportunity to find an agreement.
The Secretariat can just guide us.
All parties will need to address the gap between what the science says is necessary to avoid dangerous climate change and the current state of play, which will see the world go past this threshold in the 2030s. Slovenian Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Miro Cerar met with the Chinese State Councillor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi-on in Ljubljana. At a joint press conference, the two ministers talked about the ongoing trade negotiations between China and the United States. It was not by accident that Wang chose Ljubljana to speak about the trade deal talks with the US, as the country always tries to present itself as a bridge between the East and the West.
Following rounds of back and forth negotiations, China and the United States finally agreed on the wording of a Phase 1 economic and trade agreement, and the US side has promised to phase out additional tariffs on Chinese products.
Its geographical position, members of the European Union, participation in the Belt and Road Initiative, and the cooperation between China all support Slovenia's ambition to be that kind of bridge. Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy for North Korea arrived in South Korea on Sunday as Pyongyang stepped up pressure on Washington to make concessions to revive stalled denuclearization talks ahead of a year-end deadline. His visit comes a day after North Korea said it made another crucial test at a rocket launch site to develop a strategic weapon to deter U.S. nuclear threats. Analysts said such tests could help North Korea build more reliable intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of reaching the United States. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and U.S. President Donald Trump met 3 times since last year to negotiate an end to Pyongyang's nuclear and missile programs, but there has been scant progress.
When we come back after the break, Russia and Ukraine agreed to an implementation of a ceasefire before the end of 2019 after peace talks in Paris. That's in a moment. Stay with us.